Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a very special edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. And we got something very nice coming your way because we're previewing the Big Ten Conference, a new look Big Ten Conference, an 18-team Big Ten Conference. So I'm not sure if they can still go with Big Ten. I'll let my guys that played in the Big Ten let me know on that as we go through this show. But I'm your host, Cam Smith. I'll be playing point guard for this special for the Field of 68 After Dark Big Ten Preview Special. Former point guard at Southern Illinois University from 2003 to 2007, Chicago native. And I'm very excited to have this conversation because I have so many ties with the Big Ten Conference from guys that I played ball with and against, but then also active coaches in the conference as well. But enough about me. Let me introduce the rest of my running mates, starting with the co-founder of the Field of 68 and basketball analyst, covers everything, but definitely does his thing within the world of college basketball. He is none other than Jeff Goodman. What's up, Jeff?
What's up, Cam? Good to have you on. I love this group because all you guys are new to the Field of 68, but I can't wait to see what all you guys bring. And this is your wheelhouse with the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's time to get busy with this thing. As Jeff mentioned, we're all newcomers to the Field of 68, but definitely believe that we're going to bring some fire to this. Okay, let me get into my guys that were former Big Ten players, starting with none other than Mike LaTulip, who played his basketball at the University of Illinois. And Mike, I remember that career at high school, at Prospect High School in Illinois, a true bucket. I believe you're still the all-time scoring leader at Prospect, right?
Yeah. I think they're going to a shot clock here soon in the state of Illinois, so I may be in jeopardy of losing out on that record. But yeah, man, still intact to this day.
Nice. Love to hear it, man. Definitely one of the best sharpshooters during his time on the court. And of course, another guy that got busy for sure during his time at the University of Michigan. We got my man, Ant Wright. Ant, great to see you, man. And people are looking at your background, I'm sure, right now and seeing the Oak Hill jersey. That just lets everybody know the basketball pedigree that you're coming from, along with playing at the University of Michigan.
Definitely. Like, that's mine. That's not Melo's. Like, that's my jersey. So I mean, it's Jeff said that we need more color in the background, so it's more color in the background.
All right, cool. Now I got to throw it out to you, and I mean, you and Carmelo one-on-one during your time at Oak Hill. I mean, what's the score? Who's winning it? Going by ones.
I mean, he was 2 years before me. But
I say 11-0. I say 11-0 Melo. I don't think you get the ball back.
No shot.
You can take
no
it.
shot. No shot.
All right.
No shot.
All right, guys, let's get into this conversation with the Big Ten because, again, we have 18 teams in the Big Ten because of the joining of some Pac-12 teams like Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington. So it makes it very interesting to see who will make the Big Ten tournament because all 18 teams can't make it in. You're going to have 3 teams that are going to miss out on the tournament. And a lot of change has happened with this league, not even just in terms of the addition of the teams, but you had some big names and some big faces, literally sometimes with Zach Edey, when you think about him, leave the conference and go on to the NBA. So, Jeff, let's start off here, man, because when you have the merging of these teams from the Pac-12 into the Big Ten, there's a lot of questions to see how this thing is going to work. We've seen it football-wise in terms of the success, like in Oregon has been able to have USC to a certain level and UCLA just a little bit. So what are your thoughts in terms of how Pac-12 teams will be able to transition into the big, especially with the physicality aspect?
I think it's going to be a transition for some. I just don't think they're that good coming in. You know, I think that's part of the problem, right? Washington is going to struggle. We know that. USC is going to struggle because, frankly, they've got a new coach and completely different team. And most of those, I don't care who it is, whether it's Louisville, Kentucky, Arkansas, I think all of them are going to struggle, especially early. UCLA is going to be the one that I think in Oregon, obviously good coaches, really good programs. Dana Altman struggled lately at Oregon. You know, they've struggled with injuries, and if they could stay healthy, I think the Ducks will be a tournament team. UCLA, listen, was last year a one-off or not? Mick Cronin went the international route. He claimed poverty when it came to NIL. Now he's got some NIL. He's got a very deep roster, but does he have a dude? I can't wait to hear what these guys think of Sky Clark at UCLA and whether that's going to work because they're kind of hitching their wagon a little bit to Sky Clark, who I don't know yet. So I don't think it adds that much this year kind of more mediocrity, to be honest. No powers like Big 12 added Arizona. Well, they're going to be in the hunt for a title. I don't know if any of these teams are going to be in the hunt for a title, although it is hard to figure out who the best team is in the league.
Yeah, for sure, with so many teams there, and also just the changeover going on with it. And so you mentioned Sky Clark. So we know that Sky Clark started his college basketball career at the University of Illinois, Mike. So before we get into speaking on Illinois specifically, I just want to hear from you and Ant in terms of just the physicality aspect of the Big Ten and kind of like that welcome to the Big Ten moment for both of you guys from a physicality aspect, but then also just from a talent point perspective as well. So Mike, start us off.
Well, from a physicality standpoint, I was 6 foot, 160 pounds. So when we played Wisconsin my freshman year and we decided to switch 1 through 5 and I was rolled into the post by Frank Kaminsky, 3 straight possessions. That was
Bo Ryan wrong for that. Bo Ryan, you're wrong for that, man.
and John Gross comes up to me after the game and he's like, we shouldn't have switched 1 through 5. And I was like, you're probably right. Because I first time, okay, fouled him. Second time, he gets a bucket, and I'm looking around. I'm like, what the hell? Like, can we get some weak side help? Can someone come over? Everybody doubles Zach Edey. We got a guy, and this was before he was National Player of the Year. He was still getting limited minutes at Wisconsin, Frank Kaminsky. So I might have started his career and jump-started it. No, I think, look, from a physicality standpoint, I think there's been a bit of a misnomer over the years because people talk about the physicality of this league, and sometimes they tie it to the NCAA tournament where it's like, hey, you're so physical in the league, and then you get to the NCAA tournament and things are different. And why is that? And it's the whistle, and it's this, and it's that. My personal opinion, and this is going to be the adjustment for some of these Pac-12 teams, I think that the Big Ten is probably the most overcoached league in America. And it's not necessarily like a negative, but every single team throughout the course of conference play, it's always about how you're scheming up to beat Purdue and how you're scheming up to beat Illinois. And these coaches dive into that so much, defensive scheme, offensive scheme. And I watch the ACC, I watch the SEC, I watch the Big 12, and like there's an element of just hooping. Pac-12, same thing in those conferences. Yeah. And then you get to the NCAA tournament, and when you got to just go hoop in a single elimination tournament, some of these teams haven't been capable of it over the years. So that's the biggest adjustment, I think, for the Pac-12 is you come in and night out, there is a tailored scheme to beat your team specifically. That's not saying other teams don't do it around America, but I've just seen it the most in the Big Ten. And I think, again, like that's going to be adjustment for these teams coming in. But the last point that I'll make is all 4 of these teams, right? I mean, the ACC, you bring in teams that I think are watering down your league a little bit, right?
Yep.
The Big Ten,
those are facts.
You at least you at least have USC, you have UCLA, you have Oregon, who in the last 3 years have been to multiple NCAA tournaments. And then the fourth one is Washington, who can you recapture the Lorenzo Romar days where you were sustaining success in one of the more underrated hotbeds in America, in Seattle? So, again, this year remains to be seen. But as far as moving forward, I think they have a chance to bolster the overall strength of the conference.
Yeah, Mike, you're speaking all facts on that situation when it comes to the NCAA tournament and how Big Ten coaches really scheme and focus in on specific teams conference-wise, and you expect that. But knowing that experience and that history of the Big Ten and the NCAA tournament, even just thinking about just my experience as Southern Illinois, where we made it to the tournament, but you're facing off against teams from the Big 12 or the ACC that just have guys that can just get buckets. They don't need a set play design. If you need to get a bucket, they have guys that can do that as opposed to just needing some kind of organization to get things going for themselves. So, Ant, let's go to you, man. I'm going over to University of Michigan, and you played before Mike there. So, obviously, it was a little more physical back when you played at the University of Michigan. I'm not trying to set this up to date you, to age you to a certain point, because I was actually in college a little bit before you, man. But what was that welcome to the Big Ten moment for you from a physicality standpoint, especially the position you played?
I mean, it's several. Good thing with Beeline, he switched to 1 through 4. It wasn't 1 through 5. 1 through 5 on like late clock, but it was mostly 1 through 4. The welcome to my Big Ten moment was probably we're playing Purdue, right? And it's funny how Mike brought up like overcoached and like you cannot come into a game unprepared, right? Because if you do, you're going to lose in the Big Ten. There's not a game where you can come in and play half-ass and win the game. It's just not going to happen. I remember checking in against Purdue, and I was coming up on the left wing. One of my favorite things to do was to act like I was dead, and not like dead, but like just act like I'm doing nothing, and then I would cut and then catch it, and I would shoot it because I had a really fast, really fast release. So that was one of my favorite things to do. Nobody has ever like called me out on that. I walk by Matt Painter, and he tells, I forget who it was who was guarding me. All I remember is, hey, 12 likes to play possum.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did he just say? He goes, 12 likes to play possum. So so I'm like, you know what? I do like playing possum. So the very first time, I swear on everything, Jeff, I will send you the clip where I went against the play, act like I was catching it about to rotate. I catch it and I just turn, I just shoot it right in the guy's face. It goes in, of course. But like, yep, damn right I play possum. But like that was like one thing where I was like, man, these dudes are really watching film over there, bro. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, you bring up that story of Matt Painter over at Purdue, man. And so that's one of my Big Ten ties is that Coach Painter coached me my freshman year at Southern Illinois. So one of the best coaches that I've had in my basketball career. But attention to detail for sure, that was Coach Painter. So and I'm not surprised that he says, you know what, 12 likes to play possum. Watch out for him because he'll sneak up on you.
Play possum. I was like, what? I don't mind.
The other thing, guys,
know what anyone else is saying.
The other thing, I will say this. In the Big Ten, I've been to a lot of practices over the course of my lifetime, my career. And Painter, we can attest to Painter. Like, I mean, nobody practices more. Nobody goes longer than Big Ten coaches. Nobody.
Jeff, you preaching to the choir, man. He had us doing things at Southern Illinois where I'm like, Coach, are we training for a basketball game or are we training for the armed forces? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. No, they love practice. Like some coaches – like I remember going back-to-back days, guys, to a Matt Painter practice and a Brad Stevens practice. And I'm telling you, Matt Painter's lasted almost 4 hours, and Brad Stevens was an hour and 15 minutes. Hour and 15 minutes, no wasted motion. He didn't jump anybody. It was just quick in, out, and it prepared Brad well for the NBA, to be honest.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Jeff. You're on point with all of those things, man. So just kind of some information for those Pac-12 teams coming into the Big when you hear the stories from Mike and also in terms of their welcome to the Big Ten moment. But it's one of those things where you're going to look at these teams and just see early on, are they going to get punched in the mouth? And if they do get punched in the mouth, how do they respond, right? So it'll be interesting from that standpoint, but also interesting when you look at the preseason poll, guys, of who's finishing 1, who's finishing all the way down at 18. And should we be surprised that Purdue got 20 first-place votes for that top spot in the Big Ten? I mean, they won the conference last year at 17-3, really dominated their way all the way to the national championship, and unfortunately came up short. But it makes it interesting, guys, when we spoke about these Pac-12 teams coming into the conference. You have UCLA finishing 3rd in the preseason poll with Indiana just ahead of them at 2. So, Jeff, when you look at this preseason media poll, what are your thoughts on any surprises for you when it comes to this and how people are stacking up?
Probably UCLA a little higher than I would have picked them, especially with a new team coming in the league based on what they did a year ago and having a lot of turnover. But again, I think the biggest thing that we could take from this is how wide open it is in the Big Ten. There's no favorite. I mean, again, Purdue lost Zach Edey. We'll see, and we'll talk about whether we trust that backcourt without the big boy in there. Indiana, ton of NIL. Probably top 5-ish NIL in the country for this year and revamp their roster. But is Mike Woodson going to play in 2024 finally? Or is he going to still play in the 80s and play a front line of, Mbako and Renew and Ballo? And does he have shooters? And obviously Illinois, man, like I can't wait to hear LaTulip on the Illini. I'm really high on him. I'm high on their upside. I just don't know if honestly they can guard the four of us and Rob Doster.
They got a point guard now, though, man. This is their first point guard, and I can't even remember when. Is it just like Tracy Abrams? Is that the last point guard?
Wow, yeah, you're throwing it back right there, and yeah,
it
might be Tracy Abrams. Really and this is
and like think about roles, I'm not saying bring the ball up and pass it. No, I'm saying truly run the offense. I think, great point. Abrams, like it wasn't Frazier, right? It wasn't Plummer.
No, even
right.
No, even when Curvelo came in, they played Io, they played DeSumo, and they played Curvelo kind of in tandem, almost like splitting time on the ball. So yeah, it's a different look, and I think what helps is the fact that when you bring in 11 or 12 new guys like they did. One, I like their roster construction, but two, you need to have a guy like that, because if you don't, then you're going to have six guys wondering if it's them. And if that's the case, now your role allocation is messed up. Now you got, who's going to be late clock, who's going to be late game. And when you know that there's a gravity guy like Kasparis, then you can have guys fall into their more natural positions around them. So that's my biggest thing, because if you said, hey, Kylan Boswell, here's the keys, you're the point guard of this team, like I'm not sure that's playing to Kylan's strengths. I think he's like kind of a Drew Holiday, right? Be nasty on the ball, be a guy that's a secondary ball handler, be a great cutter, like all those things, right? Rickhouse, all these guys that can shoot it, that's accentuated with a guy like Kasparis. So like we can get into who we're betting the house on and all that, but as far as Illinois goes, I went to practice a few weeks ago. And that's one of the more higher level collections of offensive talent I've seen on a practice court in my basketball career. That's how good.
That's major. That's major, Mike. That's major.
But look, like
they
the
got
other side of it is
too.
like they got positional size, they can shoot it, like and you're like, okay, is this a Brad Underwood's talking about, like, are we going to guard anybody? And I'm watching practice, and there's some of these highly contested shots in rhythm, and I'm just like, sometimes you just kind of put your hands up, and you're like, what are you supposed to do in this situation when Kylan Boswell levels off Will Riley, gets a hand right in his face, and he turns around, shoots a 16-foot turnaround and hits it. And so I'll be interested to see how they all put it together. I think the same goes for a lot of these teams. But look at the preseason poll. There's 6 teams, including Ohio State, that received first place votes. And I think that's emblematic of what we're looking at for how crazy this conference can get.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, you really can't tab this thing as, okay, we have a certain team finishing 1, 2, or 3. Like, it's going to be, it's a lot of parity, right? Which could make for a great conference season in the Big Ten. And so we dove into a little bit on Illinois. We'll do that a little bit more after the break. But of course, we got to get into Purdue a little more, Indiana, UCLA, who finished 3rd in the preseason poll. And we got to talk about Michigan State and Tom Izzo, because he's saying that he's just tired of the drought of the Big Ten when it comes to winning a national championship. Hey, we know this. It's been close to 25 years. So we'll get into all of that after the break. This is the Field of 68 After Dark Big Ten Preview Special.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We are going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to After Dark. Cam Smith with my guys, Jeff Goodman. We got Mike LaTulip, former Fighting Illini hooper, and also Ant Wright, former hooper at the University of Michigan. Guys, let's dive deeper into these teams for this 24-25 season for the Big Ten, because we discussed the preseason poll and Purdue, the reigning champs, right there, getting all of the votes, 20 votes for the first place spot for this season. So start us off, Ant. When you look at this Purdue team, obviously with what they lost and who they lost, in Zach Edey, that changes the dynamic for Matt Painter and how he can really attack this conference, especially when you have a couple of guards that are knockdown shooters like Braden Smith, who a lot of people think that will have a great season. But what are your thoughts on this Purdue team, how great they can be, and can they find themselves back into a Final Four?
Back into a Final Four is going to be tough. They're going to need one of Cam Heide or Miles Colvin to really come out of their shell and really be that legit wing. But I think last year showed more than anything else how beneficial it is to have a legit guard next to Braden Smith. Losing Lance Jones hurts too. I do like Jakari, the true freshman. I think he's out of Georgia. Very good player. I think he's ready to go right away. Real good size. I think he has. I think he can play at. I think he could be like an all freshman this year for sure, because he's going to be on not just one of the top 4, top 5 teams in the league. He is going to be such a big piece in their success. They do have a couple of bigs. They do have Will Berg. He's about 7'2". Daniel Jacobson, he's about like 7'3", but he's like rail thin. I'm going to be interested to see where Painter goes in terms of his lineups. Is he going to try to stay big with TKR at the 4? Is he going to try to go a little bit smaller with TKR at the 5? Now, if TKR is at the 5, then you could have a Cam Heide at the 4, Fletcher at the 3, Jakari at the 2, Braden at the 1. Or if you want to stay big, that pushes one person out. And who's that one person? Is it going to be Cam Heide coming off the bench, or is that going to be Fletcher Lawyer coming off the bench? I'm not sure what that looks like. Or Jakari coming off the bench. I'm not sure. But I just think Matt Painter saw so much positive last year where Braden Smith was playing alongside another main ball handler that I think that they're going to play Jakari and Braden as much as possible.
Jeff, can Braden really step into that star role for Matt Painter's team? Obviously, it's a different dynamic, but you don't have the luxury of having someone in the backcourt with you like a Lance Jones, who has gone on and since started his pro career. So defensively, from that standpoint, it'll be interesting to see how Purdue plays on that end. But Braden Smith is going to have to be a guy that has to take a lot of shots and make a lot of shots in close moments.
Yeah, I mean, I trust the culture, I guess. I trust Painter to figure it out. But like Ant said, one of those dudes, I think Heide or Colvin has to be the guy. And then what do? They do love Jakari Harris. They love him. Now, again, they loved Heide, and it took some time. They need somebody to step up quickly. Trey Coppin-Wren, certainly he's kind of waited his turn now. And they've got enough good players. I don't know if they have a great player. Like I'm not sold that Braden Smith's going to be a first team All-American type of player without Zach Edey.
Mike, thoughts on this Purdue team, man? What do you see from him?
Yeah, I mean, quickly, I think the preseason number 1 pick, right? That's kind of a nod to, hey, most continuity coming back from a minute standpoint. You got the preseason player of the year in Braden Smith. It's a nod to Matt Painter and what he's been able to do with rosters over the years. And look, like for Braden Smith, if you made a list of who benefited the most from being next to Zach Edey, I don't think he's as high on that list as people think he is. And I think Trey Kaufman-Renn is up there. I think Mason Gillis was up there. All these guys that were at that 4 spot that all these teams wanted to track from, and now you can either set them up for open threes like Gillis did, or now Trey Kaufman-Renn is running in, unabated for offensive rebounds. And so Braden Smith, I actually think, is going to have a little bit more space to operate. And can he get to that last level of the defense to get more high quality looks around the rim, to open up more uncontested threes on the outside? And by the same token, like, can he get to the line more? Because he's a really good free throw shooter. And all of that's could happen with more spacing. Not to say if you lose like one of the best college basketball players of all time, that you benefit from it. But there is going to be a little bit more spacing, I think, for Braden Smith to operate. And if he has a player of the year type of year, then Purdue's going to be in the conversation. But if you ask me, hey, Purdue or the field, I'd probably take the field.
All right, I'm with you on that. When we talked about Matt Painter and those 4 to 5 hour practices, Jeff, I'm sure that they're having like 6 to 7 hour practices just to make sure that they live up to the expectations, one that they have for themselves, and of course that they were placed as the number 1 team to win the Big Ten.
That's when Hummel would come up with his fake injuries. He had the real knee injuries. He also had those fake injuries as well to get out of those practices.
Oh, man, Robbie Hummel, if you're watching right now, I'm sure you are. Jeff, what he does, man. He's going to come at you no matter what. And even if you're not on this show, Jeff is going to throw some daggers at you. Jeff, let's start it back with Indiana, man. This is a team that finished second in the preseason poll for the media. We talked about, and you touched on a little bit, on Mike Woodson. One, can he transition into today's game, 2024, of how to play? But then also he's been able to bring in a lot of guys, especially through NIL, because that bag runs deep over in Bloomington.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's 2 clear questions here. I mean, maybe 3. Number 1, what are you going to do with that front line? Because you paid Ballo a ton of money. You played Renew a ton of money. You paid Mbako a ton of money. Mbako is best served as a 4, clearly, in my opinion. He's a 4. And again, like, can he play some 3? Sure, but are you going to sit Ballo or Renew? Like, Woodson's proven he doesn't want to, right? It was like Roy Williams. Roy Williams used to be this way too. He'd always try to play the 2 traditional bigs. And then if it worked, fine. If it didn't work, his staff would be trying to wear his ass out. Okay, coach, let's go small. Let's go small. And he fought him tooth and nail all the way. Will the staff be able to wear Mike Woodson down and convince him that, you know what, we need to play a little bit of small ball here and rotate, play Ballo or Renew, split the 40 minutes, maybe not 20-20, but do something like that. Number 2, are there enough shooters? Miles Rice comes in, Cannon Carlisle comes in. Obviously, Luke Goody, we know, can shoot the ball, but is he going to get on the court enough, or is he going to be the 8th man who plays 12, 15 minutes a game? And Rice and Carlisle need to make shots, and Mbako needs to make shots. So those are the 2 biggest things for me. But Indiana has the talent, guys. Like, there's no reason why this team shouldn't be in the top 3 in the Big Ten, shouldn't be in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. But again, I've said it, those former NBA guys who come over to college, most of them do not succeed.
Yeah, and it's a long history of those guys, a long list of names of those guys that don't have that success, Jeff. And so if you're looking at this Hoosiers team, as talented as they are and as you spoke on, if they're not living up to expectations, and you have a situation where you're looking at Mike Woodson saying, why isn't this working? And I'm sure a lot of people with that NIL money, like, why are we paying these guys this amount of money, and not being able to have the success that we need? Not just finishing second in the conference. I'm sure the Hoosiers want to win the Big Ten and have an extended run in the NCAA tournament.
The biggest thing is Woodson did everything that he was asked of in the offseason. Everything. Last year, he didn't have a backcourt. Last portal season, he was pretty much locked in with Xavier Johnson and Trey Galloway as his guards. That's not a championship backcourt. And then what it ends up happening is you have a situation where Xavier ends up punching people in the nuts every other game, getting thrown out of this game, being injured here. They won. I've said this so many times. They won 19 games without a backcourt. Yes, was that part of Woodson's fault? Absolutely. But the one thing that you have to do as a coach is you have to be able to look at your mistakes and improve on them. Did Mike Woodson do that in the offseason? Absolutely. What did he do? He went out and not only got 2 legit guard transfers, but he didn't go out and get these super seniors. He went out and got 2 guards who could be in this program for the next 3 years. Right? So you not only have a backcourt, you have a stout backcourt who proved themselves over in the Pac-12. Ken Carlisle he didn't really have an off season, and he had several games out. He comes back, and then he was National Player of the Week in week 2. That just shows his ceiling. When it comes to Miles Rice, he had a year coming off of chemo, and I think towards the end of that season, his legs kind of lost him a bit. So I think even him coming into year 2, you're going to see the best version of themselves. So do I believe in Indiana when it comes to playing those 3 guys a lot? No, I don't, because I don't think Ballo is as good as Khalil Ware, honestly. Not going to lie.
Agreed.
But when it comes down to it, But when it comes down to it, I do agree, Jeff. They cannot play Renew and Ballo for extended periods. I would say if you want to give them between 5 and 8 minutes a game together, outside of that, they're split. Then you have Mbako at the 4. They have so many weapons. Like, I want to see Luke Goody play 15 to 20 minutes, really shoot the ball. Like, let him be Miller Kopp. Just let him go out there, be Miller Kopp, make shots, not just make shots. Luke hunts shots. There's a difference between you waiting for the ball and you making sure that you're always seeing the ball because you want to shoot it like immediately. So being able to have so many, I don't see it failing, because not only if there's an issue with the lineups, this team is so deep with so many different types of players that they're going to be able to adjust as the season goes. I think one of the issues last year was Mike Woodson kind of wanted to make some adjustments, but with who?
They had Gabe Cupps. They had Gabe Cupps playing 30 minutes a game as a freshman.
Can't do it.
Yeah. Put him in court.
Crazy.
Cannot win that way. You definitely can't win that way.
Then you had 2 or 3 fours who were kind of all the same. I mean, he really didn't have he didn't have a full set of tools.
True.
This toolbox is overloaded. And he's going to be able to mix and match in so many different ways where I don't think it can fail. I think this is one of those things where it's going to come down to, if there's just no chemistry, they'll go 500 at worst. If there's just no chemistry. But I think this is a team that can get to a second weekend. And as you guys know, get to a second weekend, maybe some luck in the other matchups. You're playing a 9, then you got to beat a 7, right? You never know how you can get to that Final Four. Like LaTulip, Illinois last year, was that a Final Four team? Just so happened that they were with UConn, right, in the Elite 8, right? I would have loved Illinois against any of the 3 other 1 seeds, so it's a bit of luck, but they could definitely get there.
All right, we touched on UCLA just a little bit before we got into the preseason poll and just that transition of those Pac-12 teams into the Big Ten. So, Mike, let's just go right to your Fighting Illini, who finished 4th in the media poll for the preseason, man. I mean, we touched on just the guard play, the experience, but the big question mark for this team is the front line, is the size. Like, you're going to have a situation at that center position, and you have to throw Morris Johnson into the fire as a freshman into that center spot along with some other guys. But still, I think that's one of the bigger issues that I see with this Illini roster.
Well, I think what's crazy is compared to probably the last 5 years, you have more optionality with your front court than you've had, because you obviously had Kofi Coburn. You kind of had Coleman Hawkins playing him at the 5, which was out of position. You had to kind of patch some things together. This year, when you look at that 4-5 spot, and part of it is like Tomislav Ivicic, if that dude gets eligible, like he is a guy that no one is talking about, partly because no one's sitting there watching the Adriatic League.
Can we say this?
I don't know how there's not a precedent.
Everybody should be eligible.
Not a precedent for this.
Right. This is stupid.
Is it the same issue? His
brother just went through it.
As his brother?
Yeah. I don't know how there's not a template. How do we not have a template that's like, hey, brother went through this. Another brother. Let's move on. Let's get him eligible because, like, look, that front court, you got a Ivicic. You have a different look if you want to go Merez Johnson. You have a rim runner. You have a guy that creates gravity from his rolls out of pick and roll. And then if you say, hey, we want to go a little smaller, you got Kerry Booth, who I think is primed to take a jump this year, that is going to be able to simplify his game a little more to get more efficiency. And then Benham Rickhouse from Evansville is another guy that I think can be a pro because of the way he shoots the ball at 6'9" and stretches the floor, can put the ball on the deck. Like they got more optionality at that front court than I think they've had in a long, long time. And that's going to go a long ways because we haven't even got to, the two guys are the potential top 20 picks in Will Riley and Kasparas Yagashonis. So like, there's just a lot to like about this team. I think Brad Underwood 2 years ago, right, with the Matthew Meyer team, like there was just a little bit of like, maybe we don't want to do it that way. Let's find guys that fit our culture, find guys that are about the right things. And you know what? We'll try to optimize that roster. And they did that last year. And I think they put themselves in a position to do that this year.
Yeah, it's a team that finished second in the Big Ten right behind Purdue. But Mike, for you, what is the one area, player, or group that needs to play well consistently for Illinois to have legitimate success? And when I say legitimate success, I'm talking being right there like we saw last year and an opportunity to possibly win the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's Kasparas Yagashonis. Like it's a guy that is a projected top 15 pick. It's a guy that's going to have the keys. And when you got the keys to the car, you got to hope like hell that person doesn't wreck it. And I think this is a guy that has played at the highest levels, literally the highest levels. And it was spot minutes in the EuroLeague playing for Barcelona, but he's been exposed to that level of basketball. It's just different. It's different than some of the prep guys coming in. This has been like a job for him for years. And the other thing that you look at with international players is, yes, you got to adjust to American culture, all that, but probably less distractions than maybe a guy that's this heralded as a potential top pick that maybe has all these friends, families coming to the game, families with opinions, should be doing this, shouldn't be doing that, agents, all that stuff. Like he's somewhat insulated from that. And I think that's going to set him up because he is the guy that has to, be the straw that stirs the drink. I mean, Will Riley's going to play more of like I think off the ball role, although he can handle on ball. He makes great reads and ball screens, and they're gonna do that. But if Yagashonis isn't as advertised, that's going to be a problem for Illinois because then you start resorting to other options that I think aren't as strong at the point guard spot.
All right, we're going to take another break here on After Dark on this Big Ten preview special. When we come back, we got a few more teams that we're going to peel back the layers on, like Michigan State and Ant's former school, the University of Michigan, with their new head coach, Dustin May. All right, we'll be back after this. Stay with us.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to After Dark as we continue on with our Big Ten preview special. Cam Smith with Mike LaTulip, from a former player for the University of Illinois, and Wright for the University of Michigan, former hooper there. And of course, you know him, Jeff Goodman, co-founder of the Field of 68. Jeff, let's start this off and focus in on Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans. Now, he's saying that, of course, and this is obvious because the Big Ten hasn't won a national championship since Izzo and the Spartans did it back in 2000. So he's hoping that can change, but says that the style of play in the conference doesn't lean into why the conference hasn't won a national championship. So we talk about pressure all the time from a player perspective, but from a coach perspective, this pressure on Tom Izzo and Michigan State, especially after the season they had last year, and really the past few seasons, is monumental, I would say.
Yeah, Izzo needs to lean into the portal. That's what he needs to do. He needs to lean into the portal a little bit more. He got Frankie Fiddler, but he's fought it. He's fought it, and he's fought the changing landscape of college basketball. I had a long conversation with him this past summer about it, and he's vocal. And I get it. It's changing. But, again, they say, like, all these coaches, you better adapt. If not, you're going to be in trouble, and I think that's where Izzo's at right now. You know, he brought in Xavier Booker a year ago, who was not ready, but highly touted, looks the part, has a high upside. I talked to Izzo the other day, and he said Booker's coming, but the true test will be once he sees it on the court in games. You know, can Jaden Akins take that jump that we thought he'd take last year and become a consistent guy? Can Jeremy Fears, coming off of what he did last year as a freshman, obviously with the situation with him being shot, can he come back and show what we all thought he was going to be able to even show as a freshman last year? A lot of questions with Michigan State. You know, we expect like royalty with the Spartans and them to be fighting for Final Fours. Unless Xavier Booker steps up, I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Jeff, in terms of just who needs to step up, when they need to step up, and can they consistently step up throughout the season. I think that there's going to be a situation with Jeremy Fears in that point guard spot. Is he ready to take on that role for this Michigan State team and lead them to some type of success? Because what we saw last year, I know they had a lot of things going on, especially with Fears specifically off the court with that gunshot to the leg and him fighting his way back. But Spartan fans don't want to see 500 basketball in the Big Ten again. Like, that's not Michigan State. And when you think about that program. And so when you think about another program in the state of Michigan, we got to talk about the University of Michigan, your former school, and new head coach in Dusty May. A lot of change. Juwan Howard is out. You have Dusty May in. You have some new faces in there, guys, courtesy of the portal, and also some freshmen looking to make some big moves on the court for this Wolverines team. So when you look at Michigan and what they could be in, what jumps out to you?
Shooting. As soon as they got the roster together, I'm watching film on all these guys, and I'm just like, okay, this could be one of the better shooting teams in the country. And to be a good shooting team, you have to have two things: good shooters and good playmakers. I think they have a good amount of people who like to play unselfish. You have a good amount of people who want to be able to create. They have multiple guys who can get to the paint. And Reuben Jones, Donaldson, Roddy Gale from Ohio State, which is kind of wild that he's like actually on the roster. But and then you have like quality shooting in Will Cheddar, Sam Walters from Alabama. Danny Wolf is 7 foot and he hit like 2 threes in the exhibition the other day against Oakland. I think they hit like 15 threes and by 8 different people. It's definitely a team where I think that they can be a lot of fun to watch. One thing that Michigan fans will appreciate this year is that you are going to see team basketball. You're not going to see a lot of standing around. I do want to see Reuben Jones be a little bit more aggressive. I do want to see Donaldson being able to really run the offense. The one thing that I'm kind of looking for and looking at is this team going to be tough enough on the interior? I do like Vlad Golden, but are they going to be able to win those 50-50 rebounds in the Big Ten? The Big Ten, as we've said, is very, very physical, well scouted. Mike said that they're overcoached, which I've never thought about it like that, but I could definitely see that. Toughness in the paint. The paint toughness is one thing that I want to be able to see, and they're going to get tested in the non-con. They have 5 or 6 power games, and right away they think they go Cleveland State, then they have Wake, then they have TCU. So we're going to find out within the first 3 games how they are physically. But very, very fun team to watch, just to be able to shoot the ball, get up and down the court.
Yeah, and it's going to make for an exciting brand of basketball when you have teams and players that can knock down shots, right? And so that always helps, just a good transition for a new coach like Dusty, man. We know his success and what he was able to do before taking that Michigan job. So there is success there conference-wise and also NCAA tournament-wise, Jeff. But when you look at the pressure conversation when it comes to head coach, because we highlighted Tom Izzo of Michigan State, now with Dusty May of the University of Michigan. And Mike, I need you to jump in on this one as well. Let's go over to Jersey and focus in on Steve Pikiell and this Rutgers team, who has a guy in Ace Bailey. From everything that I've seen, I know you guys have seen him time and time again, whether just footage or even live in person. He's the real deal, and he's going to be challenging Cooper Flagg for that number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. But then also is Dylan Harper, a lottery pick for this group, and other guys that have been with this Rutgers team that are veterans that can provide some stability in the backcourt and also in the front court. So, Jeff, with this situation with Steve Pikiell and Rutgers, how does he make it work? Do you keep guys like Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper locked into what your culture and what your philosophy is and not allow them to go rogue just because they're trying to help out their draft status and focus their attention on the NBA?
Yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried for Pikiell here just because he's never coached one-and-dones like this. And it's a different era, guys, of one-and-dones. And I'll give you an example. These guys now are not doing some of them are not doing on-camera interviews without getting paid for them from the media. That's never happened in the past, right? Like, things of that nature have changed where the players are running the programs now. And Pikiell's not used to that. He's used to getting guys that are bringing their hard hats, that are going to play harder than everybody, that are going to defend at a high level, that are going to grind it out. And now you got 2 dudes that, frankly, are going to want to score and going to want to do it their way. And I just don't know if this is the perfect synergy between coach and player in this era.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Jeff. And Mike, when you think about that from guys that have been in this Rutgers program, like for example, Jeremiah Williams, right, who has success at Rutgers before he had his injury. How do you make that dynamic work when you have these young guys knowing that they're only going to be there for a season, but getting them to buy into the team philosophy because you want to have success, which helps you out individually with your career?
Yeah, I think it's hard because these guys are only here for 8-9 months, right? You show up in June, and then by the time the season's over, they're off doing pre-draft workouts and all that stuff. So you look at Jeremiah Williams, you look at Jordan Derrick and some of these guys. Those are really some of the more important pieces on this team, because I do think it's exciting that you have in this conference 2 potential one-and-dones that could go top 5. It hasn't happened since 2007 with Greg Oden and Mike Conley. Now that Ohio State team, although they made it to the national championship and lost, they had better pieces around those guys. And so that's kind of my biggest question mark. Like, I think you see Dylan Harper, you see Ace Bailey, just the explosiveness offensively. That's there. Those are 2 guys that can score at a high level. I think I talked to Douster about this, but Dylan Harper kind of reminded me a bit of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and with the way he kind of uses his frame to punish you in the mid-range, at the rim. Ace is a total freak, just a tantalizing ability and skill set. My worry for them is the shot profile. And I wonder if Steve Pikiell can manage that beyond just all the other distractions. Can you reel in the shot profile, the quality of the shot? Because it's going to lead to a lot of volatility for this team. Like, I think they were fairly rated before the season. I may not have them as a top 25 team, but middle of the pack Big Ten, like, they're too talented for those two guys to be like a bottom feeder, but they're not experienced in some areas to be contending for the top of the Big Ten. And look, like, all that stuff showed itself in the exhibition. I don't want to take too much from the exhibition, but they got punished on the glass. You're going to have a lot of freshman mistakes defensively. And it starts on the defensive end. That's been the makeup of this team for Steve Pikiell over the years. And this team and the way it's constructed is a departure from that. So he's going to need to instill those same principles in these guys if they want a chance of winning consistently. But, like, I don't know if their defense is going to be able to compensate for the volatility that they're going to have offensively. And I think that's just going to lead to inconsistency. And I think there's, like, legitimate off the rails potential for this team. And because it's a lot to try to throw together in 1 year.
If it goes bad, guys, if it starts to go bad, it could get ugly. That's what I would say.
I'm with you, Jeff. I'm with you. Yeah.
Like Michigan last year. I know you're about to say like Michigan last year.
No, and it's like, Jeff, I'll say it for you.
They don't have a starting big. They don't have a starting big. They're going to end up playing Martini and Bailey in extended minutes at the 5 until their freshman is ready to play. I think they started like Agbole against St. No.
Yeah.
You can't do that and expect, a good return. When it comes to J. Mike and Jeremiah Williams, their chemistry with Ace and Dylan is going to be so important. And are guys going to be able to reduce their roles for the betterment of the team? I don't know. J. Mike is going to end up with a lot of like third and fourth option defenders on him, where we're like he's going to be able to cook whoever's in front of him. Is he going to be frustrated because he's not getting those touches? I don't know, but especially Jeremiah and Dylan, man. If their chemistry is right, the ceiling on this team is removed. Their chemistry has to be right. Watching the St. John's Rutgers game, their chemistry was not right at all whatsoever. Between that and what's going on at the 5 spot, I guess they ran out of money. But man, it's going to be up and down. I'm not really worried offensively because their offense has always been kind of trash to me. Not going to lie. So if you got 2 or 3
guys, their
defense
hasn't been like this. Their defense hasn't been.
Their defense. That's my thing. Offensively, I'm not worried, but defensively, if that's not a Pikiell defense, they're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Right.
Or even 75% of a Pikiell defense. Just be somewhat of a Pikiell defense. But if you're breaking down at 1 or 2 positions every single possession, I mean, you're going to see these high-scoring games where they're losing like 85 to like 78 and like all these non-Pikiell scores, And guys want to hoop.
Yeah.
They want to play. They're not going to slow it down and try to win games 52 to 47. That's just not in these players' DNA. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
And that's real quick. Like that's more what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. Like, I think no one's doubting the talent from those 2 guys. No one is doubting that. Like, we're talking about the pieces around them. Can they step up? And that's going to be the question because right now, and I know it's one exhibition game that we watched with this collective group. Arkansas beat Purdue in an exhibition game last year, right? Like there's always one-offs, but there are certain traits that younger players possess and teams that haven't gelled together possess that I think showed itself in that exhibition. Like offensively, it was a lot of like head down, try to get to the rim. I got stopped, throw it back out.
Yeah.
I got stopped, throw it back. Like there wasn't a lot of cohesion. And so what's going to happen, they're going to have very volatile nights. So when they are hitting those really tough shots that Ace and Dylan shoot, they're going to beat really good teams in this conference. They are. Like they're going to be able to play offensively with anybody. But the flip side of that is when you're not making those shots, they could lose to anybody in this conference. So that's going to be the question, how they manage that. Can you get to 500 in this conference? Because 500 got you 5th place last year. So that's
Arkansas was also really trying to win that game last year with Muss.
Yeah.
Muss like had his shirt off and everything. And Painter out there trying to get Painter out there like working different like lineups and all this. Muss is out there like slapping the floor. And Arkansas fans were going nuts. I was like, yo, y'all don't even understand what just happened. And sure enough, one goes to the Final Four. The other one's team falls apart halfway through January. So,
all right, let's put a pin on that and take our final break for After Dark in this Big Ten preview special. We got more coming your way and very spicy with some of these conversations with us.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Listen, everybody, we saved the spiciest topics and conversations to finish off this Big Ten preview special. I'm Cam Smith, host of After Dark for this with my guys, Jeff Goodman and Wright and Mike LaTulip. Fellas, let's just get right to it because we're going to go this way. If you had to bet your house on one team in the Big Ten this year, who's that team where you're telling your significant other, like, look, we got to do this. I feel that confidently in this team. And this is where you have those odds when it comes to the futures for the Big Ten champions. And, of course, Purdue favorite at plus 400. So, Jeff, I'm throwing you right into the fire, man. I'm sorry, you're my guy, but I got to do it to you. Those odds provided by BetMGM. Who are you betting the house on, Jeff? Who you got? And we need some value, too, Jeff. Give us some value. Don't go with the chalky pick.
Listen, I'm risky. Luckily I don't have a house right now. We sold our house 2 months ago. So this is easy for me. I can bet a house I don't have on the Fighting Illini. If I had a house, I would probably be safer and go with Purdue and Matt Painter. But since I don't have one, I'm rolling the dice in Illinois here. I really do. I love their upside, their talent, their scoring ability, their depth, their interchangeable matchups and pieces. So I'm going with Mike LaTulip's Fighting Illini here.
Okay, Mike. Are you riding that same wave with your Illini, Mike? Are you putting the house down on the Illini to win the conference if you had to put your house down?
I do have a house. It's not flex. But I want to preface what I'm about to say right now with a criteria.
Uh-oh.
Okay, it's boxes that are checked that lead me to what I'm about to say. Okay, and I think I touched on it earlier. Point guard. pros on the wing, shooting, positional size, good front court. I'm picking Illinois. And I don't want to hear shit from you, Jeff. I know you just picked Illinois, because I know if Robbie was sitting on this show right now, he would say Purdue. Most likely, he would. And I'm talking about a team in Illinois that, forget this jersey behind me. Forget it. Okay? This is a team that in conference play has won the most games in the last 5 years, including Purdue. Illinois has won the most games. So I trust Brad Underwood's ability to turn the roster over like he has. I love the pieces that they've gotten. They check those boxes that I mentioned. And if we're just talking about value, I think plus 900 is crazy. That is, some of the teams that are ahead of them too, to me, have bigger question marks. So yeah, that's my pick.
All right. Saying it with his chest right there, Mike LaTulip. I love that, especially with the Illini 9-1 at plus 900 to win the Big Ten Conference. Look, I can't really go against that. I'm with you on that one, unless Ant is just going to make this a clean sweep with Illinois at 9-1 the Big Ten Conference.
Come on, Ant. Zach.
Who you betting the house on, Ant? And if you say Michigan, Ant,
we're done. We're done.
Man, don't do that. Don't do Michigan. Don't say Michigan, Ant.
Listen. Illinois was it, but after y'all picked them, I'm not picking them no more.
Wow.
So
that scares me.
Smart man.
I'm not picking them no more because y'all just got it. So I did have a top three. I'm gonna go with my number 2. All right, that's gonna be Indiana. It's gonna be Indiana for me. Okay. I think that they have. They are going to be able to get through a lot of issues. If there's foul trouble, someone goes down with injury, I think they are 2 and 3 deep at pretty much every position, where I think they have backups who can start at other schools. So I'm going to go with Indiana. And that's only because I choose not to be a follower here.
You know what else? Can I give you one more reason that Indiana is not a bad pick? SIU Edwardsville, Eastern Illinois, South Carolina at home, they're down. UNC Greensboro, then they go to the Bahamas. They actually play people. Then we have Sam Houston, Miami of Ohio, and then they start with Minnesota at home. So they could legitimately. They've got a lot of cupcakes at home. It's a
lot of experimenting. Gonzaga and Arizona are down there too. They are down there too. But I will say they'll be able to experiment a lot more than other teams, like more than Michigan. And man, I had like a full. I did a full. I did like a full like. I looked at every single. Every single team's non-conference schedule, and Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan, and Illinois are top 4 in terms of going out and not being afraid to schedule people. Indiana, I had towards like middle-ish bottom. The Big Ten did a really shit job at scheduling non-conference this year. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't even. Minnesota with Ben Johnson's, he needs to be.
Well, he's just trying to save his job. I get that. I'm fine with a guy trying to save his job. I'm fine with that. And what I'm not fine with is Indiana
2 years in a row.
Games. Like my daughter goes there, and I'm like, I'm not paying the money for you to go by that home schedule. Like I'm not. You want to do that on your own? You can do it. That is not coming out of my pocket to go see those.
Hey, you got that on 3 money. What you mean? You got the on 3 money.
That's why I'm telling you.
All right, guys.
Well, hey, look, like,
why she has the house.
like 20 seconds. 20 seconds here. And the point that I want to make about Indiana's conference schedule is what we've seen over the years. Quickly on Omar Ballo, right? Kofi Coburn, Zach Edey, Hunter Dickinson. You can go, and I'm not saying he's that caliber, but we've seen when you have a guardrail like that in the Big Ten, you win 11 plus games. You just do.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
No
that
doubt.
is baked in for their floor. And then however these other pieces progress, I think is going to determine whether or not they can take the league. And I think it's possible.
I don't
All right,
think
we're going with
Omar
teams
is
that
good
we
as
would bet
any
the
of those
house
guys
on.
that you mentioned either.
Ooh,
He's not,
all right, that's a
but it's
conversation.
at least
we got.
but it's a way that they have to guard him. Like their teams are going to send two.
Arizona,
They just
listen.
they just are.
Arizona was not crying
Yeah.
about losing Lamar Balla. I will say that.
Not at all. Not at all. They didn't drop one tier. All
I
right,
said he's
let's
not
move it
those other
forward.
three guys.
Who ranked him number one
Let's-
transfer? Who did that? Who was
Borzella.
that?
Let's blame it
I
on
don't know about
Borzella.
All right, guys, let's finish it up here and focus in on the sleeper team in the Big Ten. We just went with teams that we would bet the house on, but who's that sleeper team for you, Jeff? We got about 4 minutes left, so let's finish it off with some of our spiciest take. A team that could really open up some eyes.
I mean, for me, it's probably Maryland. Like I think they did a good job in the portal. You know, Gillespie's going to be really good. He was the best Belmont transfer and one of the more underrated transfers coming over. And then you add Derek Queen, who is – I saw him a couple summers ago, a few times in person, and, man, he's your old school big. That's the only thing I wonder is, how do he and Reese play together? But Derek Queen is an elite passing big man. Not good, elite. Great hands, great feet, below the rim guy. You know, he's not what a lot of people want right now. But I'll tell you what, those two with now, some of your younger guards having a year under their belt, I don't know. I just feel like maybe Maryland can get back to surprising people like they did 2 years ago in Kevin Willie's first year.
All right, Jeff, going
Less
with the Maryland
bouncy Chris
Terrapins.
Webber for Derek Queen. A less bouncy
Ooh,
Chris
that's
Webber.
I like that. I like that, Ann. I see where you're going with that. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. What about you, Ann? Who's that sleeper team that you have?
Iowa. Fran McCaffrey he just finds ways to finish in the top 7 almost year in and year out. You get Peyton Sanford back. To me, he's like Reggie Miller. I mean, you look at his game and Reggie, it's very, very, it's very identical. Josh Dick's back. We saw stretches with him last year where, he took over some of the scoring. I think Tony Perkins leaving frees up a lot more role and responsibilities for Josh Dix, and that's going to just make things a lot better. Owen Freeman is coming back. Brock Harding is back. And I just trust Fran. Maybe not in the tournament, but when it comes to Big Ten play, absolutely I trust Fran. Look at his track record the last several years on where he falls. I mean, Peyton Sanford, Fran just has ways of putting out All-Americans. Don't be surprised if Peyton Sanford has a crazy year and ends up on a second or third team All-American. I mean, he could have got drafted probably mid-second round and probably got on a two-way. Yeah. I mean, that is a really good player coming back in this league, man. Probably the best shooter in the country. And I say that because he's asked to do much and shoot so many different ways. I'm not saying, spot up and spot up. No, he's coming off curls and he's asked to get the ball and come off pick and roll and shoot it. He's coming off fades and he's reading so much in transition. He can shoot like within 30, without a doubters. I mean, he's such an electrifying player that nobody's talking about being back in the league.
All right, Jeff going with Maryland. Ant is going with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Mike, who do you got? You went with Big Ten to bet the house on a plus 900. Those odds on BetMGM with that Big Ten championship future. But who's that sleeper team for you, Mike, that really catches your eye?
Yeah, my sleeper team coincides with my biggest gripe looking at this preseason poll, and it's the disrespect for the Northwestern Wildcats. I don't understand why there is this criteria. There's a different criteria for different teams. Why is it that Purdue loses one of the greatest college basketball players of all time, and we use the familiar faces, good returners theory, yet Northwestern loses Boo Buie and returns Barnhizer, who's an all Big Ten, all defensive guy, Big Ten team and an all defensive guy. They return Ty Berry. They return Matthew Nicholson. They return Nick Martinelli, who I thought came on late last year. This is a really solid core, and yet that same criteria doesn't apply to them. Not only does it not apply to them, it sends them to 16th in the conference. And like for them to be 16th, given the coaching job that I think Collins has done the last few years, is crazy. And yet it keeps happening. They were picked 8th last year. They finished tied for 3rd. They were picked 13th 2 years ago. They finished tied for 2nd. And Barnhizer, this is just my opinion here, Barnhizer has a potential to be a first-team all-league guy. He put up numbers last year that hadn't been done in the conference since Draymond Green. So I just think it's crazy. They're well coached. They guard. I think Jalen Leach is a guy they added from Fairfield that he's not going to have the same production as Boo Buie, but the one thing he has in common with him is irrational confidence. They both have those. So I don't – 16th feels wild to me. I know the Big Ten is going to be bunched up in the middle. I know that. But for a team that's finished top 4 the last 2 years – and then the 16th with the pieces they had coming back, I thought was insane.
Especially, and then this goes back to another tie that I have in the Big Ten. Their defensive coach, Chris Lowry, my former head coach at Southern Illinois University, the first guy and coach in Big Ten history to win the Howard Moore Defensive Coach of the Year in the league. So with that, along with the players they have coming back, Mike, I love you talking your shit because that is real with this Northwestern team. They're using that spot in that media poll at 16th as fuel to their fire. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Wildcats finish up. They have some pieces there. So I love the pick from Jeff with Maryland. Of course, what Ant said about Iowa, because they have a lot of guys coming back shooting the ball wise that will definitely add other elements to their offense. And Owen Freeman surprised me. I covered him when he was at Moline High School when he won. I'm Cam Smith for and Wright, Mike LaTulip, and my guy, Jeff Goodman. We will see everybody soon. And remember that After Dark will be on nightly throughout the college